All right, so I hate to make this comparison, but I think Tiffany Henyard, when it all comes down to it, is going to go down as the Idi Amin of mayors. Idi Amin was extremely charismatic. He, took over the country in a military coup. The people were definitely with him when he got in, and almost in the very beginning when he first got in. Some of the things he did, obviously, he, started to put a certain group around him, got rid of anybody who had any level of opposition, as any dictator would do, and he ran the country into the ground in a short amount of time. Tiffany Henyard, the reason why I make the comparison is she was incredibly charismatic, came in and totally ruined Dolton in a short amount of time. I'm going to play a little bit of what happened in the report.
Improved from the information that was presented in August, and as of October 2024, the general fund's net deficit position is currently $2.4 million. Additionally, during the first 6 months of fiscal year 2025, the average monthly expenditures of the village have also decreased. Through fiscal year 2024, the village was spending on average $2.5 million per month. During the first 6 months of fiscal year 2025, that number is down to $2.1 million per month on average.
This is about Dolton, but I think this is a lesson to be learned, man. You definitely want to thank God you don't end up having a mayor like a Tiffany Henyard in your town, because like I tell people all the time, federal law and federal government has effect on your life, but nothing has effect on your life like the local government. Your mayor, your tax dollars that you're paying, in sales tax, property tax in particular, these are the monies that go into the general fund that the people who are running your town are handling. So let's take a look at 2022 up to 2023 into 2024. I mean, take a look at the expenditure. Take a look at the fact that 2022, the expenditures were off about $1 million. But when you look at 2023 and 2024, look at how much was going out versus coming in. So 2024, 9.8 million coming in, but 14.5 million going out. And you see the trustees, thank God for them, have been fighting so hard to get some type of financial clarity. And it's been a tough road for them. So if you see that through all this, they get to 2025, projected 2025, they're even 12.9 million going out, 12.5 million coming in. And it was a fight because you see that deficit started in 2022, literally the year after Tiffany Henyard got involved and became the mayor. So
remain generally the same since the information that was presented in August. As you can see from the chart, as of May 2024, the general fund had an unrestricted cash deficit of almost 5.7 million.
Now, again, to people who live in Dolton, they may already be aware of this, but for the rest of the country and whoever's been paying attention to this, I mean, again, I think this was a great report by Lori Lightfoot and her people, because when you look at the cash balance, right? Again, you go back to 2022, surplus of 4 million, and now you go 2 years later into 2024, negative 5.6 million. This is really scary if you're living in that town, because you got to say, where the hell is the money that I pay in taxes? Where is this stuff going? You know what I'm saying? Again, all this stuff goes into the general fund. You see how the money's getting spent here, and you see from 2022, if you watch this full report, they talk about right around 2022 is where Tiffany Henyard and her administration started to make sure the trustees were not aware of spending. There wasn't any access to bank records. Credit card is the big thing. I'm gonna go to the credit cards in a minute, because credit cards, typically it's hard to follow the transaction of credit cards. There's so much spending that happens there that the trustees never saw.
As of October 24, that amount is a deficit of around 5.5 million, and this deficit includes the amount of held checks that the mayor discussed previously. Those are reflected in these deficit balances. Regarding those held checks, as we presented in August, since March of 2023 and nearly every month since then, a portion of the checks that were approved and printed have had to be held. As of June 18, 2024, This was 589 checks. Turning now to discuss the village's use of credit cards. As we discussed in the August presentation, we're aware of 6 different credit cards that have been in use by the village at various points in time.
Let's pause it right there. So the credit cards, this is where a lot of spending happens. That's very hard to track because, you know, the credit card with 6 different credit cards, you don't know who's spending what. Well, they know what has been spent. They didn't know who was spending it. And again, this is coming from Lori Lightfoot's report. The trustees were not able to see any of this stuff, so all this stuff has happened. So take a look at the credit card spending the first year Henyard is in office, 2021, $123,000 in credit card spending. Then you go 2 years, 2023 seems to be the year where her administration dialed it all the way up. They dialed it up as far as the spending and the hiding of what was being spent. 2023 was also the notorious year, obviously, when they went to Vegas and everything happened allegedly between Andrew Holmes and the alleged assault with Vania Duke. So that was a treacherous year for Dolton. Now, look at the credit card spending, $779,638 spent on credit cards in 2023. Look how 2023 dwarfs all the other years as far as credit card spending. And they go into some of the stuff that was spent. So let me play that.
January 2021 through at least June of 2024. Since the August presentation, we did request updated credit card statements that would cover July 2024 through December 2024, but we did not receive any updated credit card records. As you can see from the chart, the use of credit cards steadily increased from calendar year 2021 through 2023. In 2023, the village spent over $775,000 on credit cards.
That's a lot of bread.
As the mayor earlier discussed, oftentimes credit card expenditures have no accompanying receipts. And the credit card statements alone provide limited information about the credit card purchases. Given this overall lack of available documentation, it is not possible for us to ascertain important information about the village's credit card use, such as who made the purchase, was it an approved purchase, and what was the government purpose. This type of additional information is necessary to perform a complete investigation of the credit card use and to draw any conclusion about any individual purchase.
So again, when you really simplify that for those who didn't catch it in the back, essentially the credit cards don't have accompanying receipts, and it's hard to know who the hell spent what on what most of the time. So you got to understand that the reason why I'm calling her the Idi Amin of mayors is that, so like most leaders do, they go in, they start to get people around them who are extremely loyal. They start to go outside of what should be done. They don't like oversight, and they plunder through the finances. Look at the small town of Dolton, 22,000, 23,000 people, and the monies that are coming in to handle the city's affairs. Look at how that money's being spent. Now, we already know she had a ridiculous security detail. Everybody knows that. But what you can see, Keith Freeman, you got to give him his credit, and they also give him props at the end for finally going ahead and cooperating with the investigation. He was the village administrator. He was like Tiffany's right-hand person. And a lot of what happens is that she appoints people who are super loyal. All of them get paid. Who knows who used the credit cards? At the end of the day, when there's no oversight and you're an employee typically making whatever, $60,000 in the village, $50,000 or whatever, maybe you get a bump up. Now you're making $80,000 for a position that used to pay 20 grand less. Now you have access to spend. People are probably buying whatever they wanted to buy. I'm not saying there weren't legitimate purchases in the credit card spending, but you got to ask yourself, when you see that number dwarf in 2023, you got to say to yourself, what were they paying for? And a lot of the expenditures, when they go over the report, a lot of stuff was tons of money on food, travel, a lot of travel for a small town.
For example, from 2021 through June of 2024, village credit cards were used for over $171,000 in travel-related costs. Things such as airfare, excess baggage fees, hotels, meals, rental cars. There are over $51,000 spent at local area restaurants, as well as expenditures at retailers such as Dick's Sporting Goods, Best Buy, Wayfair, Walgreens, Apple, and Walmart.
And you do realize, like, when you work for the city, right? And I don't know who the money was being spent on, but when you work for the city, it's not like lunch is on the taxpayers. When you work for the city, you get a salary. You're supposed to buy your own lunch and buy your own dinner. So, same thing for the cops and firefighters or whoever. There are times where maybe a supervisor will take the company card and buy everybody lunch. These are things that are supposed to be special here and there, but it's not on the tax. The taxpayers are not supposed to be funding just anybody's, and the mayor included. The taxpayers are not supposed to be funding anything that she may want to do and eat. Everything is not a business expense, and it obviously was being taken advantage of.
From January 2021 through June of 2024, the village spent approximately $218,000 on purchase from Amazon using village credit cards, the largest spending of which occurred in 2023. Now, the vast majority of the purchases on Amazon do appear to be for routine items such as office supplies, office furniture, and supplies for the police department. And the Amazon order details show that these orders were delivered either to Village Hall or to the police department. Additionally, many of the largest purchases on Amazon, 3 of which we identified in the August presentation, were related to materials or supplies for the skating rink.
So let's talk about the skating rink for a minute. Now, the skating rink, I think that is something cool that you can do for your town. She built a skating rink, spent upwards of $1 million from what I understand. And a lot of this money from this report shows that there were skatable artificial ice tiles, right? So most of the people in the village are not happy about the skate rink, which was named after her daughter. They're not happy about the skating rink. Why? Because they really could not afford to do the skating rink. If you have been to Dolton, you understand Dolton, you know the lack there of business, you know the poverty rate, you know the crime, you know the things they have going on. A skate rink is a nice idea for a town that is financially solvent and has the money to do it, right? So there are many towns who are much better positioned. You're much better positioned and do not have a skating rink. So I think Tiffany got in and did the things that she wanted to do. Like I said, like an Amin, I'm going to get in. I'm going to spend the money that I want for the things that I want to do. I'm going to put my name on it or my child's name on it. These are the things, and again, I hate to say this, but you know what? A lot of African nations, that's why a lot of African nations struggle because of serious corruption. The leadership. And I'm not saying there isn't corruption elsewhere, but a lot of times when you talk about places where the vast majority of people are in poverty, where the median income is not that high, you really can't afford to have horrible leadership. So a town like Dolton deserves a skating rink, no question. But could it afford a skating rink? Is that an expenditure that made sense for a town like that? So I think what would have been better would be to really get more business in there, get the town to a certain level of surplus, and get a robust financial situation going, and then maybe you do something like a skating rink. But $1 million skating rink is a big expenditure for a small town. If you had some doubt about Tiffany Henyard's guilt or culpability in all this, I don't see how you look at this stuff and deny it. Whatever happens in the future in relation to anything criminal, they're going to use a lot of this stuff because at the end of the day, she's culpable. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Crucial Combo.